Hello, fellow weirdos, and welcome to Horror Through Her Eyes. You've got the Taminator and Amateur Destroyer here, ready to explore the twisted world of horror and prove that girls enjoy horror just as much as the guys do.
That's
Tammy.
right. You just faded out there.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. I said, hi, Tammy. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome. How are you? So
I'm
good to see
doing
your
well.
face.
I
Good.
know yours too. I missed you.
I know I missed you too.
We haven't been chatting as much recently because I had a family shindig going on. So I have missed your texts. And now we can go back to texting each other as much as we usually do, which
Oh,
I'm excited for.
every 5 minutes, you mean? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
All right. So, first of all, we're going to get into some haunting headlines, which we don't always have, but there were a couple of pieces of news that I found intriguing. So I got all of these off of Bloody Disgusting. I didn't, like research them extensively or anything, but just wanted to bring these up for everybody. So The Last of Us Season 2 is looking to begin production in early 2024, and they're targeting a premiere sometime in 2025.
Oh
So
no.
I know, kind of out there.
I turned on Max the other day and I saw that was like in the featured. Like they like feature stuff. So when you first turn on the app, you see it, and I thought, oh, great, that must mean season 2's coming out. But now that's just been ruined. So
Yeah, sorry. It's probably just
that's
because it was Halloween, spooky
oh
season.
yeah, that's probably true.
And, that's all that they didn't have a lot of detail, but, at least we kind of have a basic outline of when they're going to start doing stuff. So I wanted to mention that. Also, HBO announced that Welcome to Derry, the Pennywise TV series, is being pushed to 2025. And that was originally supposed to come out by Halloween of 2024. I know that nobody's heard about this for a while, and I think people, including myself, are starting to get worried. So at least it's still being worked on, even though they're pushing it out apparently.
Well, there's a strike going on now, and then there was just what was it, a writer's strike, or now there's an actor's strike, or vice versa, or something. That's probably affecting some of this stuff.
That is true. You're right. Yeah, duh. Yeah, the strike is supposed to be over now, I think. I think they all finally came to an agreement fairly
Good.
recently. I don't know about the actor strike because I felt like it was mostly to help out the writers, but maybe they have their own things going on too that they need their own conditions met, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't want shitty writing. So I'm okay with them pushing these out if that means better writing. Another piece of news is the creator of HBO's True Detective, Nick Pizzolatto. Pizzolatto.
Isolato.
Yeah, there you go. You got to use the hand. It makes you
Yeah.
sound better. Which the first season of True Detective is a masterpiece if you
Oh,
haven't seen it.
hands down.
Oh,
Yes,
you have
hands
seen.
down. Oh, yes.
Oh, I love it. Okay. He teased at the Austin Film Festival that he's working with Blumhouse on an upcoming horror movie, which is an occult detective story.
I'm
So
intrigued.
I am intrigued. Not a lot of detail, and he just, announced it, but I was, excited to see that. So I thought I'd bring it up. Also, finally got a bit of news on Salem's Lot. So the
Yes.
long-awaited adaptation from director Gary Dauberman, who did Annabelle Comes Home, is still without a release date, but we did get a bit of an update on Halloween night earlier this week. So according to the latest reports, Warner Brothers is toying with the idea of bringing Salem's Lot straight to streaming sometime in 2024. It was originally set for a theatrical release on September 9th of 2022. And the new Stephen King adaptation was recently bumped to April 21st, 2023, before getting ejected from the theatrical slate altogether.
What does
As
that
of,
mean? I wonder. What is it like?
I
I
don't
mean, I
know,
know.
because I don't know how they pick and choose that stuff. I would like to see a theatrical release, but I'm glad that at least for now, it doesn't seem like it's completely gone because I think people were starting to think that, or at least we were.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had in my mind that it was coming out in September, and I was like waiting like a whole year for it, and then that kind of
Yeah.
came and went, and then I realized like, hold up,
Yeah,
like
we're
and like,
going past all of these release dates that they've given
yeah.
us. Yeah, so as of now, it doesn't have a release date. Let's see. If this week's latest update is accurate, the film will be debuting on the Max streaming service in the coming months. So.
Okay.
It does sound like Stephen King is a fan of the adaptation, or at least that's what they wrote. I don't know. Let's see the tweet that he had put out. See, the Warner Brothers remake of Salem's Lot, currently shelved, is muscular and involving. It has the feel of old Hollywood when a film was given a chance to draw breath before getting to business. When attention spans were longer, in other words. It feels like,
burn.
Yeah. It feels like a horror movie version of slow burn movies like The Great Escape. It builds very well. And then King continued in a follow-up tweet that there are diversions from the book I don't agree with, but on the whole, it's faithful. The best scene, Danny Glick in the hospital trying to claw down a blood bag. The Glick scene could have been directed by John Carpenter in his prime.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh. So there's a little bit of good going on there. So at least it's not gone altogether.
I know. I want it to be good so bad.
I know. And it keeps getting delayed, which is usually bad news. So we shall see.
But I mean, we were just talking last show about how it seems like really good stuff is going straight to streaming that could have been in the theater. Like, we said Pet Sematary and Totally Killer. Well, I thought Totally Killer, but
yeah, that could have been a theatrical release for sure. It was very, very well produced. Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. And that's going to wrap up our haunting headlines section. So now we're going to get into Fright Bites. And because I've been rambling on and on, I'm going to have Tammy go first. So Tammy, what have you been up to lately that's horror related?
Well, it's already started snowing here, so I'm kind of got out of my Halloween mood, but I'm still watching the horror. A couple things I've been watching. I had the wonderful experience last Sunday of taking my 15-year-old son and two of his 15-year-old friends to see Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, this was not a theatrical masterpiece or anything like that, but I had fun with it. And I think it was made a lot funner. Like, I don't know anything about Five Nights at Freddy's other than the fact that Landon used to play it. But it was fun to just listen to them and watch them react to like the scenes and the Easter eggs and the story, and they knew what was going on. There was a couple good kills, but it's definitely a Blumhouse PG-13. You know how those movies are. So a few little tweaks and it could have been an R-rated movie, but then they lose all those kids under 17, and I just think they knew it might, I don't know, maybe they thought it'd be a bigger cash cow. The one really, really good kill in it, you just see in shadow. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a hard 13. I thought there was some pretty, no matter what, I don't know how bad the game was. I don't even really remember, but I thought there was a couple scenes that I think could be quite scary in here, like for younger kids, but I mean, I still would have taken Landon if he was younger. So I'm not telling anybody don't go. I'm just saying it's a PG-13, but it's a hard 13. And I almost feel like when they do these movies, why don't they make an R version and a PG-13 version? You know, like what a good idea, right? Just all they'd have to do is like put the kills in. I don't think it'd be that much. It's almost like taking a horror movie and then making the made for TV version, you know? I mean, you just take those scenes out. I think it would have lent itself well to that. So I had a good time.
True. Like a director's cut.
Yeah.
Like a rated R cut.
Yep. For the parents on Saturday night or whatever, you know, because I just think this story could have, I mean, there's, I didn't know this, but there's like a whole story with like children napping and not napping, like kidnapping, you know, like stealing children and turning them into these characters that are under Freddy, I don't know if they're under Freddy or the rabbit. I'm not sure. They're under somebody's power.
Okay.
And I didn't
know
that
part of the game, or that was just the movie.
I'm like, Landon, is this in the game? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, wow, that's kind of dark. Like, I just thought those were like animals with like personalities, but I guess they're children that have been stolen and turned into these things, and they have to do the bidding of, I don't know, somebody. But anyway, that was kind of dark. But is it Matthew Lillard, the guy that does from Scream, and he does Shaggy's voice? Yeah, he was in there, and it took me a while to even realize it was him, because he's like let himself go gray. He looked really good, but he's like really muscular and let himself go gray. So until he started talking, I didn't even, as soon as he talks, you know it's him. But I didn't even realize that was him. But I liked the cast, and there's a child that stars in it through most of the movie, and I thought she did really well. So I would say go, and I would say if you have a little bit older kids, or maybe kids that are already familiar with the story, maybe they're not 17 or whatever, or 13, but you know, they are already aware that children are going to get stolen and stuff like that. There's nothing like real brutal. I think you could take your kids to see it, but we had a good time. But the theater was packed, so I mean, I think it's doing well. So
that's awesome. I'm actually going with Raina to see that this weekend, because even though she's 18 now, she used to play it, you know, when she was a little child. And she's visiting from college this weekend, and she's like, I really want to see it. The audience score is actually pretty good. I was like, really?
It's really good. Yeah, it's really good.
And Peeta's in it from Hunger Games, so
he's the dad. He's the main guy. So
oh my God, is he dad age now?
Yeah. How did that happen, right? Oh my God. Yeah, wow. He is. So I don't know. I thought it was way, but I mean, I was going just for the boys, you know. But it was a great time. You know what was disgusting is that it cost me $150 to take 3 kids to the movie, get a pizza, and 4 drinks.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like,
that is disgusting.
And it was an earlier show. It wasn't even like a later show, but at, you know, $15 a ticket, $10 a pop, $25. They had a special 5 Nights at Freddy's pizza, which the boys inhaled and then all took their own money and went back down to the concession stand.
Oh my God.
But they're 15-year-old kids, so that's what they did. But I was just like, man, my wallet, what the heck? That's terrible.
That's crazy. Oh my God. I think I only go to the movies at all because we have one of those like movie club deals.
I would think of doing that for myself, but that wouldn't even have really helped me in that situation, because it's just 1 ticket. So I don't know. Anywho, so we went to that. I was so excited for Hell House, the Carmichael Manor, because I love that whole franchise. And it's my least favorite, to be honest. And everybody's saying, oh, it's my favorite.
Oh, no.
And although there were some, I did this a couple times, you know. Like, so that part's good, but they didn't bring anything new. Like, they're trying to make this an origin story, so they bring back like the scary clown outfits from, I don't want to give too much away because I know people haven't watched it yet. Anyhow, what they're doing is giving you the backstory to some of those what do you call them? Creatures, characters, whatever. And you've seen it, right? The original Hell House?
I haven't.
Oh, well.
I know about it just from people talking about it. So.
Well, I'm not like a found footage fan, but I really like this whole, and I like this fine. I liked it. It's just probably my least favorite of the 4. So. Yeah. It's just there's a totally, I mean, they're taking it in a whole new direction. I'm trying to say as little as possible. So I think a lot of what was fun and scary and all that about the first ones, this is just more like an origin story, and you don't even really get the horror till like the very last little bit. So if you're fine with that, fine. If you're like really want to know more about like how this all, the backstory of, you know, how this all started and all, that's really what this is about. It's in a much different vein, I felt, than the rest of them. But I mean, it was still good. I didn't hate it or anything, but it'd almost be like, if you have never seen it, I would start with this one and then go watch the other ones, because then you get to like, you know, you kind of get to know what's going on. I also watched, I think it's on Hulu. There's a new movie called Zombie Town, and it's got Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd and a bunch of kids. And it's really weird. I know, it's like really weird, but I gave it a chance because I like Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
It was fine. It's definitely more like something that might be on the Disney Channel, I think. I mean, I watched it anyway, but that's a good one if you're looking for something you can watch with your kids. It's very like, Halloween Town zombie kind of like something you'd see on Disney
Yeah.
Channels, but I think it's on Hulu.
Cute.
AHS Stories came out. So I was watching Delicate, and I guess it's over. They like split it into two parts. So part one
Oh,
is
okay.
done. So I was been like looking for it for the last 2 weeks. I'm like, what the heck? My Hulu is broken. But they stopped it, and then they released the 4 stories, and I liked them very much. My favorite one is the one with the girl with the tapeworm. That's all that I'll say. I was very, very disappointed by Night of the Hunted. Did you watch that? With Shudder? It made me
Night
so
of the
mad.
Hunted?
Night of the Hunted. It's very like, do you remember that ATM? I think it was ATM. Or, yeah, it came out like 4 or 5 years ago. A girl gets, she's like at an ATM and she gets targeted by a killer.
Oh my
It's
God,
almost
no.
like that same exact story, but this girl, she gets stuck in a gas station and there's a sniper outside.
Oh.
And there's some really brutal kills and all that, but he is like a Trump person. So you have to
Okay.
listen to him like giving his Make America Great speeches again and all that, why he's killing
Oh,
people. And I was just checked out, done at that
yeah.
point. And then she's trying to like counteract, try to keep herself from being shot, basically, which the ending is not what you're expecting. The ending was good, but
Mm.
the whole thing is them going back and forth about like why he's right and she's wrong. It's like, I don't want to listen to this. Just kill some people. Like
Yeah.
I'm here for the horror or whatever. So in
Oh
fact,
no.
I didn't even know that was coming. I'm like, ooh, I love these kind of movies, desolate,
Yeah.
isolated. This is going to be so good. And it was. And then about a half hour in, he starts like on with his stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Politics. Yeah,
Yeah,
we get that enough in real life. I
exactly. I
want to
mean, no
watch a
matter
movie about it.
what side you're on, I don't want that in my horror,
No,
whatever. But
that's why that one movie was so good, The Hunt, when they're just making fun of both sides.
yeah,
Like
this is
that
like
was
the
hilarious.
opposite, the
Yeah.
exact opposite of that. Like they're literally fighting with each other while he's hunting her
Yeah.
in the gas station.
And they're both
And
taking themselves very seriously.
yes, and it's
Yeah.
like, I don't believe I'm watching this. That's really it for my new stuff. How about you? What you been
Yeah.
watching?
So when I went home to Palm Springs recently for the family shindig, and I got to hang out with my mom for a day, and she had been trying to get me to watch these Alien shorts that were released for the 40th anniversary. They're all on YouTube. So I'm going to include the link in the show notes. But we love Alien. Like right after Evil Dead for me is Alien. And so that's mine and my mom's like combined favorite horror movie and series
Aw.
because we love all of the movies. Like seriously, you know how people are like, "Oh, the fourth one's bad." We love the fourth one. So we love Alien. And so we watched all these shorts, except there were a couple that were animated with CGI. And my mother and I are both haters of CGI, so we didn't watch those ones. But we watched all the live action ones, and they're pretty cool. They're
Are
all
they
like
so? Are
5 minutes
they're not
each.
just scenes from the movie? They're like new stuff.
No, no, they're like fan short films, but they were like officially released for the 40th anniversary.
Oh,
So
I
they're all
want to
like,
watch.
yeah, they're really
Uh,
cool. They're all like very highly produced, and they all are kind of just like inspired by alien, like they have one that just follows like an AI person who's the last person on one of the ships, and just different little stories about like
oh, I'm
either the
watching
big
that.
alien or like the eggs or the AI or whatever. So yeah, they're really cool if you're into the franchise. So I just want to bring that up. And we also rewatched Carrie together. And I don't know if there's another movie where I feel more this way of when you're going into it, and you're at the prom and she's having the night of her life and she's so happy and she wins prom queen and you know what's coming and you're just like, please just don't happen this time. Please
Yeah.
just have her have this one night. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't know if
Yes.
there's another movie that does that to me as much as Carrie. I get so like sucked in and I'm just like rooting for her so hard.
Yeah.
And it's like so depressing every time, which I usually love, but it just makes me sad. Um, and I had been wanting to rewatch it anyways because of Piper Laurie's recent passing. So R.I.P. Piper Laurie, you're so good in
Yeah.
Carrie. Um, and then aside from that, I got Netflix back for a month so that I could watch The Fall of the House of Usher. And I really liked it. I thought that the concept and the premise and everything really suits Mike Flanagan and his need to put monologues and everything. Because usually when he does that, I'm kind of like, okay, this isn't realistic that this random teacher person is going to spew off this beautiful poetic monologue. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
in this, it's all based on Edgar Allan Poe. So it's like actually fits, doesn't feel out of place at all, and it's just kind of lovely. And he's so good at writing these like family relationships and dynamics, so it's totally invested. And you think I would just hate everyone because it's like about this rich family, but I guess because they kind of go into the backstory and stuff of, like the matriarch and the patriarch of the family. I don't know, it just gave it more depth. And they have the granddaughter character, Lenore,
Loved
who
her.
makes you feel
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
invested. And so I really enjoyed it. And we're actually going to be discussing this on the podcast soon for our first Show Queens episode. So, listeners, if you haven't seen it yet, that's actually going to be your homework because we're going to discuss it and dedicate an episode to the season. So, and
Didn't you
that's
think it was some of the most masterful writing, the way he was able to bring all of that together into one cohesive story?
yes,
It was
I thought it was so good.
someone whose brain can work that way, because you've just got to keep that big picture in your mind the whole time, yet come up
Yeah,
with these little microcosm, and yet it all comes together. Oh my God, I loved it so much.
yeah. It was really, really great combination of his writing and directing, and it just all really working together for me.
Yes.
So yeah, and that's it for my Fright Bites this week.
Okay.
So I guess it's time for us to get into our movie review of The Blackcoat's Daughter. So I'm going to let Tammy take it away because this is Tammy's pick.
It is. Hang on. I'm going to, oh, I'll just read your introduction here. So Jessica put, okay, I read the IMDb synopsis and like I was telling Jessica I don't think it's right and I forget what it says at the moment. Jessica put two girls must battle a mysterious evil force when they get left behind at their boarding school over winter break. So I've seen this probably about 5 times. Jessica, how many times have you seen it?
This was my second time watching it. So I watched it when it first came out and I've been meaning to revisit it. So I was really glad to have the perfect excuse to rewatch it finally for the podcast.
So I'm not calling Jessica out or anything, but this is kind of exciting because before we started recording, she says, I don't understand this movie. And I started to like Tammy explain it to her. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. We'll just go through this and see if she gets to maybe the same place that I got to. Of course, I think I'm right, but I don't know what everybody else's opinion of it is. Do you want to read the listeners what they had to say, or do you want to save that to the end?
I can read it now for sure.
I don't know like what they were saying. I don't know what they said, so I don't know if it's like fitting to just read them now, or does it give too much away, or
Yeah, I'll say that as I was reading these, because I read them before I rewatched the movie, I was really excited because I figured, oh, these are some things I didn't pick up on the first time, which I think with a movie like this is totally understandable. But
yeah.
even having these comments in the back of my mind for a rewatch, I still didn't get this. So I just feel like I'm dumb, which I guess is fine. It's fine.
Yep, that's it.
Uh,
You're just dumb. It's a good
I'm
thing you
just
have me.
dumb. Yes.
Just kidding.
But we did get some listener comments. I asked everybody what they think of this movie. Rodney Wilder Jr. from Portland said that he loved this one. I thought that the time jump didn't really work in the sense of spoilers, believably passing off one actor as the older version of another. but the atmosphere and setting and performances are all second to none. Super creepy. So I had that comment in the back of my mind, and I was like, okay. So, and then Mike Merriman said, amazing. I think it gets better on repeat viewings, which I do feel like if I kept rewatching this, maybe I would eventually tie things together properly, without being told what's going on. But
Well, I respect what both of them have to say, so I'm happy to
yeah,
hear that they both liked it.
yes. Also, Trey Whetstone of Screaming Through the Ages wrote, I haven't seen it since it was released, but I remember really liking it. There were things in that movie that actually scared and affected me,
Yeah, I
which
agree with
this
that.
is really in line with how I felt going into the second time watch. And then Armored Foe, who is Will, he said that I love this movie. It's sort of a quiet, slow burn, satanic
Yes,
tale that
yes,
plays with time and then hits you
yes,
over the head with that end scene.
yes, 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 yes.
And
Agreed.
that's all of our listener comments. We didn't get any terrible feedback, so that's good.
And it's all guys. That's so nice to hear.
Yeah, it was all
Yeah.
guys. I think we had a couple of girls say, or maybe I'm thinking of the last movie. I think I am. I was thinking that some people had said that they hadn't seen this yet, but I'm pretty sure that was actually Carnival of
Oh,
Souls.
Carnival of
So,
Souls. Yeah.
yeah, no girl feedback this week, but that's okay. Hopefully, we'll get them to watch this by
Well,
releasing this
we'll give
episode.
them some girl feedback right now.
Yes, we will.
All right. So you can currently stream The Blackcoat's Daughter on Max, like Tammy did. Canopy, like I told you about last time with your little library card, or direct Steam or
I
Stream
think it's direct TV, but it's
TV.
like one word, Steam. Wait,
Okay.
you stream. It might have auto
I,
corrected.
you can rent or buy starting at $2.99 on Prime, Vudu, YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play. So the Blackcoat's Daughter came out in 2015, is rated R, and runs 1 hour and 33 minutes. It is directed and written by Oz Perkins, the son of Anthony Perkins. So who also directed I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which is also excellent, Gretel and Hansel. And he wrote Cold Comes the Night and The Girl in the Photographs. And this stars Emma Roberts as Joan, Kiernan Shipka as Kat, and Lucy Boynton, who could be one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life, as Rose. It also stars James Remar, who I absolutely love. You have him down here as being from Dexter. I remember
Yeah,
him from Sex and the City, but he's like, if you look at, he was also in that. Did you watch that bear movie I told you to watch on Tubi? He was in
not
there.
yet. I
Um,
plan on it though.
yeah,
He was in
yeah,
that.
yeah, he's like the star of that. I just
Nice.
really, really like him. I don't know why. I mean, but if you look at, he has a really long IMDb list. So even if you can't think off the top of your head who he is, trust me, you've seen him in something.
Yeah, I
And
think I
then
like him in everything, but I put Dexter because that's like the
that's your
quintessential
favorite. Yeah.
role that I always think like first link him to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and he plays. I've seen him play really good guys. I've seen him play really bad guys, really creepy guys, family guys. Like he's done. Like he's good at everything. And I just think I don't know. He just seems like a likable kind of person.
Hmm.
And then I was surprised that was Lauren Holly as Linda. I didn't even realize that was her. But you never really see her. You only kind of see her from the back or
Right.
maybe the side profiles. So I haven't seen her in anything in a long time, so I didn't even recognize that was her.
Yeah, me either
Um,
until I looked it up in IMDb and I was like, oh my God, that's her.
right. So our podcast is a spoiler-filled podcast. Warning, warning, warning,
Warning.
warning, warning. This is your warning. Spoiler alert. And I plan to spoil the heck out of this because I was so excited to do this because I think it's just going to be an awesome conversation, and I'm kind of glad you are where you are with the movie because it'll be fun to, because obviously you didn't see something I did see or didn't put
Hmm.
something together that I put together. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to kind of hear your thoughts. And I'm going to use your notes because I was
Okay.
telling Jessica Miner and Longhand, and you guys don't want me stumbling through that. So, yeah. Okay, so here we go. It opens in a Catholic school. We open with a shot of a girl sleeping in bed, interspersed with images of a frozen tundra. The girl wakes up and sees her father wearing a black coat. Now, we only see him from like the shoulders down, standing over her bed and says, Dad, you came early, but she's still sleeping. The scene of her awakening is actually her dream, and she goes outside with her father. We still only see his coat, not his face, and they come upon a car in the snow with a dead woman inside, her hair blowing out of the halfway open window. The car had clearly been through a bad accident. The girl blonde wakes up in the real world and goes to her calendar. It's February and parents are visiting in one day. And this is kind of where the cat story starts and where the cat story ends, is with this calendar. This plays like a pivotal moment,
Right. And I'm trying to remember, before they titled it The Blackcoat's Daughter, wasn't it going to be called February or something with February in it?
It was going to be called February because supposedly it was the February break. Now, I don't remember a February break. I remember Christmas break. And then it seems like you got spring break, but maybe, and I went to Catholic school, so I don't know what February break is, but maybe it's just maybe something he was familiar with and I'm just not, or I don't know. Maybe it's something he made up for the movie. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't remember. My daughter actually went to Catholic school for a little bit, and I don't remember any of the religious stuff, to be honest. She kind of just avoided all of it while she was there, so I don't remember.
I have in my notes, I don't know, did he say this? I've done away with them now. I've done away with them, you're mine now. Does he say that? Or why did I write that if he didn't say that? I don't know. See, this is why I'm not using my notes.
The dad, anyway. You're saying the dad said that in the
or
dream?
Does she hear, or does she hear, does the figure say that to her? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. That's why I typed these notes.
So
but apparently I did a bad job.
I don't know if I should get into it now, but I don't believe Daddy is Daddy. Do you?
In the dream, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a dream, so I just didn't think it was actually anybody. I thought it was just a dream. Are you saying you think this is like the devil in her dream?
I mean, I think it could be. I don't think even I who think I know what this is all about, I don't think I can like put a nail in it at the end and say this is absolutely 100%, what happened. This is when reality is going on and this is not, when it's not going on, or this is in her head, because this is just like Carnival of Souls. This whole thing, is it all in her head? Even though we see it, what seems like physical manifestations, like telephone ringing and that kind of stuff. I'm just not sure how much of this is all in Kat's head. Is she just mentally ill? Was she truly possessed? The priest thinks she's possessed. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself here, but I'm just trying to put out that idea that this is another one of those where it's just kind of like up to you to decide, is this going on? Is this all in Kat's head? Is she just mentally ill? Or is she actually possessed by something?
Yeah.
And because she did know, unless this is all in her head, she did know her parents were dead before they were dead. So how did she know that if she's just mentally ill? If the voice on the phone wasn't real when it called her and told her they're not coming, they're dead or whatever, she knew before they were actually dead. She was telling everybody like, no, I can stay here. The headmaster is going to come at such and such a time and tell me that I can live here, which ends up happening. So I don't know. I mean, that there's kind of an argument that.
Yeah, I don't know why I took like a lot of things at face value, even though this movie is clearly not supposed to be taken that way. And I just wasn't putting stuff together like that. And I was kind of confused, like if she was talking about her own parents or Rose's parents, because they also die, right? So did both of their parents die?
No, Rose's parents die at the end when she kills them. We're getting way ahead of that, but they die 10 years later. They don't come because she thinks
she's 10 years later. Yeah.
Yes. Or 9 years later, sorry.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, sure. She doesn't go because she tells her parents the wrong day because she wants to tell her boyfriend that she's pregnant. So that's why hers don't show up on time.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, so then we go to the girl dressed in Catholic attire now. Walks into the office of a father and talks to him about his upcoming trip and how she wishes he could be present for her upcoming performance, her recital.
When
The
I'm saying
father,
the father, I'm talking about like a priestly father.
yes,
Not what is it in Catholicism?
father.
But yeah.
Yes. Well,
But
the
not a
priest and
priest,
father
right?
are this. Yeah, not her
Oh,
dad.
okay, okay, okay.
Not, the dad is daddy. She calls him daddy. The father
Okay.
is the Catholic priest guy.
Yes, and this
Um,
is still talking about Kat. It's just that we hadn't been given her name yet.
right.
So that's why she's referred to as the girl or the blonde girl until we're given her name.
The father says he'll be back to school after the break like everyone else. The girl smiles to herself, which the father points out, and she acts confused in reaction and says she hopes he has a fun time on his break. Also, this whole time, she's kind of like, he's talking to her and she's not really responding and she's staring out the window.
Hmm.
And I think she seems to be responding to something. So I think she might even, though we haven't seen the figure, the devil, yet, I kind of
Hmm.
wonder if she sees him outside or thinks she sees something because she's kind of like doing this and maybe mouthing some words, not quite forming any, and then she smiles.
Yeah.
Looking out the window, she smiles, and then that's when he's
Hmm.
like, "What's funny?" You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Um, and now we're introduced to Rose. And it's school picture day. So in the next scene, we see a beautiful brunette girl walk into a classroom as she passes other girls either sitting at their desks or leaning against the wall. It's picture day. And she's walking over to have her school picture taken. She smiles for the camera. And then we learn this is a Bramford school. We also see here the pictures of in the nurse's office and the same beautiful girl after she gets her picture taken. We see her smoking and telling her friend that she thinks she might be pregnant.
Hmm.
In the next scene, the brunette girl is brushing her teeth in the bathroom. Then she's in the nurse's office where she has her temperature taken and says her throat hurts. And then she swallows. The nurse gives her some medication to say that it would be a shame if she was sick over break. But like I just disclosed a couple minutes ago, we find out that the real reason that she's doing this is because she thinks she's pregnant and she wants to break the news to her boyfriend, who kind of looked like a slime ball. Anyway, like it's like really, you're
He
way too
seemed
pretty for that guy.
seemed okay.
Yeah. Um,
Girls that age don't understand like how hot of a guy they can get yet.
this is true.
Yeah, I was explaining that to my daughter, like not recently, but semi recently. I'm like, girl, you don't even know how hot some of the guys are that I hooked up with. Okay? Because you think that you're at a certain level, and like guys do not care what you look like, really. They will hook up
That's
with
true.
anyone.
That is true. But your daughter's beautiful, so she's got nothing to worry about.
She is, but girls don't realize how
I
beautiful they
know.
are. You know what I
I know.
mean?
Yes.
They just like
Yes.
scrutinize themselves so much. And I'm like,
Especially at that age.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. In the next scene, the brunette girl is in, we assume, her bedroom, talking to a different dirty blonde girl than the one that opened the movie while she smokes a cigarette by the window. Her blonde friend is telling her she needs to tell him as it's half his. Based on the conversation, the brunette girl is pregnant and doesn't feel like the baby is half his. And it's not fully his fault either that she got pregnant and she partook in the activity and knew exactly what she was doing. She admits she liked it. Her friend asks if she's going to tell her parents. Um, and then she's like, no, like, how could I, or something like that. In the next scene, the brunette girl is in the auditorium while we assume the principal talks to the girls about their parents coming to visit and pick them up for break. That headmaster guy, the principal guy, what
Hmm.
he kept making them say, like, what was it, got it, or what was he like kept making them answer something to everything that he said.
Oh,
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
He's
We
like,
like just watched this.
yeah. He's just like, yeah, really weird. Okay. We see a sign outside the school which reads the Bramford School. As girls walk to another auditorium, we briefly see the blonde girl from the opening walking alone, and she sheds a tear. The brunette girl runs into her dirty blonde-haired friend in front of the auditorium, and her friend asks where her parents are. The brunette responds that they're inside, so she better go meet with them. The blonde girl performs a song on stage, and this is Kat, is the blonde girl. And it was that I thought that was a cool scene because we see all the girls walking one way, and then you see Kat like walking alone the other way. So we you already can kind of tell she's going in a different direction, figuratively and literally, than everyone else. And the blonde girl Kat performs a song on stage, singing and playing a piano, and it's a somber song like The Lion and the Lamb, something. I don't remember, but it was something about the lion lays down with the lamb, some religious kind of song or whatever. And there is we see her notice the two empty seats in the auditorium where her parents should be, and she like takes a beat and then she just keeps on playing. So in the next scene we see the blonde girl and the brunette. So we see Kat and Rose in the office talking to, we assume, the principal about their parents not being present.
I guess the headmaster, right? That's what they refer to him as.
Yeah. Kat, in response to the headmaster's question about if her parents have contacted her on her cell phone, says her parents haven't gotten her one yet and told her maybe she can have one for her birthday. Her name is Kat, Catherine, Kat for short. The headmaster then asks the brunette girl, her name is Rose, where her parents are. Rose says they got delayed and should be coming in a day or two. The principal says they can't live there, but that a couple of the staff will be there to stay with them until their parents get here. And he says it like, we can't have you living here now, can we? Something snarky like that.
Yeah, kind of snarky like.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to be funny, but kind of ish.
I don't think they're trying to live here. They're just like trying to meet up with their parents, dude. But okay.
Who wants to live at boarding school?
Seriously. He tells them that a couple of the staff will stay with them until their parents get there. He asks Rose if she can keep an eye on Kat until Kat's parents arrive. Rose says she's actually sick. So she was planning on hiding out in her room. In the next scene, Kat calls her dad on the school's public phone and asking him where they are and leaves a message asking him where they are and if they're coming, and asks that they contact the school to let them know what's going on. So it's kind of like you can kind of see, I think personally, you can kind of see that Kat's kind of starting to realize like either her dream is coming true, her premonition is coming true, what was told to her is coming true, like, but yet she keeps marking off the days on her calendar earnestly, like, if I just keep believing that they're coming, they're gonna come. It's like, even though it's starting. I think she knows in the back of her mind they're dead.
Yeah.
She just like just keeps carrying on, like, no, they're on their way. Whereas Rose knows her parents aren't coming because she says, oh, I told them the wrong day or whatever. They're coming on Friday. They can't change their plans or whatever. But like we said before, she just wants to meet up with her boyfriend. So
yeah, and I feel like Kat, like, she knows the truth, but she's carrying on because what else can she really do? Like, what is she going to tell people that she dreamed her parents died? It feels more like that, not like she's being positive about it, more just like what can I do about it?
Yeah, well, that's true too.
It feels like she's just kind of waiting to like receive the news,
But then, like, this is what I said before, like, whatever way you choose to look at this, if she is just mentally ill or whatever, how does she know at this point? Like, I mean, we find out, so the story is kind of told in one of those like back and forth kind of ways. Like at the end, we circle back and see everything that Kat did for these 24 hours, but we don't get those answers till later.
Right.
But I mean, it's like somehow she maybe it was as simple as she had a bad feeling and is just scared that maybe something happened to her parents, and then just had a dream about it because she's worried about it, and she is just mentally ill. I have no idea. We don't ever really find out. So the two girls stay back, and I guess every other single person leaves except for the sisters, which
Mhm.
are like the nurses, which I don't know if they're sisters like nun sisters or if they're sisters, like actually like sisters, or I don't
Oh,
know. I don't know. They just get called the sisters.
I'm
So
sure it's like a nun sister, right?
that's what I thought too, but they're in layman's clothes. So, but they kind of look and act nunnish. So I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if they were nuns, and it is a Catholic school. So I just assumed they were nuns, but
Yeah.
nobody ever really says that for sure. In the next scene, we see both girls eating dinner with the staff, the sisters, praying before supper. Cat moves her slightly slanted spoon straight. She's meticulous. Okay, so in the next scene, Kat and Rose are together in Rose's bedroom, and Rose tells Kat, "You know, I'm not babysitting you tonight, right, freshman?" And Kat responds that Mr. Gordon said she has to stay with her. Rose mocks Kat for being a goody two shoes. Rose says she's not going anywhere, even though she's obviously getting ready to go out. She tells Kat that if the sisters ask, she'll stay in her room sick. Rose tells Kat that none of the sisters, oh, she's like, "You know about the sisters, don't you?" And Kat's like, what? And she's like, "They don't have any hair on their bodies, not even eyebrows, and that they wear wigs." She calls them wigs. You know they're wigs, right? She said their eyebrows brows burnt off because they were worshiping the devil. So, did somebody, because later on we see Kat doing the very same thing. So you just wonder, like, aren't a lot of rumors based somewhat in fact, I don't know.
Mhm.
So I mean
What's
that's
interesting about this scene too is like already when she was talking about this, it seemed kind of strange. Just like, where did this come from? Why are you bringing this up? And then later on, they kind of circle back to this scene and how Kat saw it, and she sees like a horned, shadowy figure behind Rose in the corner. So
yeah.
I don't know if that meant that like Rose was supposedly being told these things by this shadowy entity or what. What do you think that that was all about?
Well, I kind of thought that because if you watch Rose, or if you watch Kat, like Rose is talking, but Kat's doing her far off stare again, and then we find out later when it circles back around that there's this horned, which I freaking thought that thing was terrifying the first time I saw it. It was just very disturbing to me. No reason
Mhm.
why. It's not. It's all kind of in shadow. There's no, just, I don't know. It's just very, very unsettling. It's really, really tall, and like if you haven't seen it and I tell you what it looks like, you're gonna be like, "Tammy, that doesn't sound very scary." But to me, when I saw the scene, I think that thing is terrifying. But
Yeah.
I think I think personally that Kat's not even listening to what Rose is saying. She's more like kind of nodding or whatever. She never really like joins in the conversation, and it's more like Rose is telling her a story, and then we find out later that this thing was standing directly behind her, and she was almost responding to it the same way she was like looking out the window earlier with that, just that, like it almost like puts her in a trance or something.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she wasn't aware of what Rose was saying at all. I think she was a little bit, but I think she was more like, there's a demon standing.
Distracted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I don't know. She seems so like, I don't know if it's, and this is up for debate too. And I don't know if she's just like so starved for someone to love her. I don't know what kind of a home life she has, but she's like, seems all in with this demon from the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It like, because you find out later, she finds out right away, or she gets this phone call that's like, "You can stay here, you can stay with me, I'll make it happen." And she's all like, "Yes." So I don't know, it's just really weird. So it's almost
Yeah.
like she's in a trance by this thing, but it's almost like she's like enamored by it too, like just in awe of it, where I would be shitting my pants if I saw something like that. So
Yeah. Is it like taking her parents' place, you know?
that's what
'Cause
I'm
she's
wondering, because like, I don't I don't know. I don't know. They never really say much about, because say she is just mentally ill or whatever's going on with her. Obviously, this is already going on before this weekend, and like I don't know like what kind of a home life she has. These girls are obviously away at school, and we never get it. We get to meet Rose's parents later, but we never get any kind of a sense of what kind of a home life that Kat might have had. So I don't know, but she seemed like any kind of attention she would take. She seemed a little starved for Rose's attention, but I wonder in hindsight if that was just because, kind of like how when we were talking about Carnival of Souls, how like she accepted the attention of her creepy neighbor just because she just didn't want to be alone. And I mean, she was like, Rose is like, I want to be by myself, and she's like glued to her, following her around to the bathroom, to the bedroom, like everything. So she might have been a little afraid, but I don't know. Like,
yeah, that's true, because she does seem very lonely. And also we know that she has, this thought in the back of her head that her parents are dead. So maybe she doesn't want to be alone or have to like face that fact, and just wants to like distract herself. She also does seem like a goody two shoes, and she hasn't been corrupted by a cellular phone yet.
Yeah.
She's a rule follower. She keeps bringing up Mr. Gordon, the headmaster, and what he said is like what goes in her mind. So just all these little bits of her personality that we kind of get to see.
When she said that about the cell phone, I had to look to see when this movie came out. And this movie is almost 10 years old already. I cannot believe that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think things have like literally changed that much in those 10 years. It just like, it would be so much weirder that even, I mean, it was a little weird in the movie. You could tell the guy's like, you don't have a cell phone, but then like, I think it would be even weirder now,
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe this is almost 10 years old.
Right.
Okay, so then actually Kat must have been listening a little, because it says when Kat asks Rose who told her that the story about the wigs, she responds not to come in her room or touch her shit, which doesn't work, we find out. You don't say that to someone and then leave, because what's the first thing they're going to do? Touching your shit. But she just seemed pretty enamored by Rose too. Like you could tell she, like, I don't know if she was an upperclassman to Kat, but the way like as soon as Rose leaves, she does go in her room and starts touching her shit. But she picks up her school pictures and she's like lovingly touching them and stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know if she like had the hots for Rose or was just like maybe jealous of her, because here she was like had parents that were actually coming, who wanted to come. Rose didn't want them to come, who had a boyfriend and like was living her life. And we just don't know enough about Kat to really say, but
yeah, I'm guessing Rose is an upperclassman because she called her a freshman earlier.
Oh, that's right. You're right. And she just looks physically younger than Rose. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I figured. Sorry, my microphone's falling. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not let it fall.
In the next scene, we see Rose get picked up by a boy who kisses her on the cheek, which Kat observes from a window. Kat defiantly goes into Rose's room and gently picks up her hairbrush and then places it back on the desk. She then picks up her picture packet and looks at her picture through the envelope window for a moment, and then, dun dun dun, the phone rings. All right. Now, this is where some of the jumping around starts. Mm-hmm. So you have Ellenville here. Was that the name of the bus stop?
I think that's the city she was in. I'm just kind of basing it on when she's looking at that map between the distance of Ellenville and Bramford.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming she's in Ellenville.
All right. So we've met Kat, we've met Rose, we've been to Bramford. Now we do a hard left. And this is I thought, quite confusing the first time I watched this. I think like I said, I think I've since figured it out. But the first time I watched this, we get introduced to June now, right? That's her name, June?
Joan.
Joan. I thought it was Rose older, because they almost have like the same face, I thought. But anyway, it's not, in my opinion. But anywho, in the next scene, we see a new blonde character get off a bus and walk into, we assume, the bus station. We see her look into a mirror and have a few flashback visions of being in a hospital. When she comes back to, she tears a hospital bracelet off of her wrist. Someone knocks and she replies, "Someone's in here." She then uses a payphone. She talks like that. She then uses a payphone, and the number she called has an error message. I assume she was calling her parents. What did you think? Oh, you don't know because you don't think that's Kat. So I don't know what you thought. I thought she was calling her parents. Or
I didn't know. I was just like, who's she trying to call? I don't know.
As if the number is no longer active. She pulls out a map and looks at the distance between Ellenville and Brantford, and then between Brantford and Portsmouth. She sits outside. So she, in my mind here, I think she has escaped from the mental institution she got taken to after she does what she does later. That's how I interpret it. She has escaped because we see in her flashbacks that, I don't know if it's right now that we see it, but in one of her flashbacks, she killed a nurse and took her ID. And that's the ID that she has on her now that has the name that she's using, Joan.
Yeah, that's a little later. So
okay.
Right now we just assume that she's some random girl.
She has a flashback here, though, right? What does she flash back here? I don't remember. Just maybe being in the hospital or something, because then we see her take the bracelet off. I think it was just her being in the mental institution, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was
mental hospital.
I think it was something like not so dramatic yet. You know, like her flashbacks kind of get more and more dramatic as we go along, and more of the pieces kind of come together.
Yeah, we don't know she's a killer yet. She sits outside she doesn't look like one for sure.
No, she's very meek.
Yes.
And like nervous.
Yes. So she sits outside on the bench, obviously underdressed, right? Like it's freaking freezing out there, and she has like a really light, like a windbreaker on type of jacket. Yeah. And it's a dark, cold, snowy night, and it is night. And obviously, I mean, at first I thought she was waiting for a bus, but in hindsight, I think she was just sitting there wondering, like, what do I do next? I have no idea where I'm going.
That was the impression I got.
Yeah, what I'm doing. So a man walks by and stops to see if she's okay because she's not wearing much and it's so cold out. He asks if they can give her a ride somewhere. He points to his car with the headlights on and said his wife is waiting in the car. He introduces himself as Bill. The girl introduces herself as Joan. When Bill brings Joan to the car, his wife asks what he's doing and says he's trying to help. Joan gets in the back of the car. There's a bouquet of flowers resting on the back seat next to Joan, the kind you would lay on a grave, we find out later. Bill's wife says they can take her to the next gas station, but Bill says he's trying to help. So I think the way that the wife makes it sound, it's like this is something that Bill does, and we find out later, like, it's like he's looking for his daughter. He knows his daughter is dead, but it seems like this is something he's done before, or he likes to pick up strays, or he seems to see his daughter in many other girls. And because the wife kind of alludes to, like, yeah, this is what he does, you know. I mean, I don't think that happens quite yet, but she just alludes to that this is something obviously that irritates her that Bill seems to do. It's like he just can't let go of his daughter. So now we're back at the Brantford school. So in the next scene, we see the boy who picked up Rose drop her back off at school, and they sit quietly and somber for a minute in the car. It's apparent Rose has told him that she's pregnant, and he's a typical teenage guy about it. You know, like his answer is, you know, let me give you a ride to get it taken care of. And, you know, she's like, no, thanks, dude. And leaves her there and tells her to be careful. Yeah, a little late for that. So Rose walks back into the school and calls herself an idiot in the mirror. And I felt for Rose at this moment, you know, I just like, I've dated that guy. I know exactly what you're going through. She can hear a voice in the vents. She leaves the bathroom. She hears like, so she's in the bathroom just like standing there staring at herself in the mirror, and she hears what sounds like someone singing in the vents. So she leaves the bathroom, and she knows the only other person that should be there is Kat, but she hasn't seen Kat since she's come back inside. from being outside and with her boyfriend. She leaves the bathroom, walks down a staircase, and goes to a hallway where she calls out Catherine into the darkness. She turns on the light in the hall, and we can hear the electricity sizzling. She walks cautiously down the creepy hall to her room. The boiler room, it appears, and through the small window on the door, this is where things start to get weird. She sees, you have shadowy figure. It's Cat bowing up and down over and over in front of the furnace, kind of like saying something, I don't know what, or singing, or can't quite tell what she's doing, reciting something or hailing Satan or something.
Yeah.
And it's just, it reminds me of that scene. It's not quite as bad, but that scene in Hereditary where the mom is continuously slamming her head on the attic door thing. Just, it's just kind of like that, only she's doing it to the furnace.
Yeah. Not slamming her head, but bowing quickly.
Quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick, up and down. You'd have to have stomach muscles of steel to do what she was doing. So she was obviously like in a trance state of some kind here.
Yeah, agreed.
I need a slurp. Hold on. All right. Now we're cutting back. There's a lot of back and forth. Sorry. I'm glad you have such good notes here. So now we're back to the hotel room, Joan. So obviously she went off with Bill and his wife. Joan awakes in bed in a hotel room to a note on her bedstand that says, "Thought I should let you sleep, Bill." She drinks some water and gets up. She dumps her purse. Well, she immediately looks for her purse. Like, oh my God, did he take, almost like, it's like she fell asleep in the car or something and didn't remember being put in it. She kind of seems a little disoriented. She immediately goes over to her purse, I think to make sure everything was still there. Although of that party of people, I think they're the ones that would have something to steal, not her necessarily, unless she stole a bunch of stuff when she left wherever she left. But anyway, she sees her stuff is still there and calms down a little bit. Then she goes to the bathroom to take a shower, and she sees the vision of someone shooting a gun briefly, and we see the scar in her shoulder. Now, did you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you put that together or no?
No.
Okay.
Did Cat have a scar on her shoulder?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Okay. So we cut back to her and see a mark on the back of her left shoulder, a scar. We cut to another memory of a shadowy father sitting over her in bed. We can't see his face, but we can see the white of his collar.
Yeah, this is another father, like a Catholic father.
Yes, a Catholic father. From now on, when I say father, it's a Catholic guy, okay? So after her shower, Bill knocks on the door and asks if he can come in, which she answers she wraps the towel around her and goes to the door. I thought that was a little weird, but I think she doesn't seem to have really great social skills or social norms. I don't think she, first of all, she just went off with a stranger and got in his car, and she seems very doesn't seem like that. Maybe these are things she shouldn't be doing. Don't answer the door in a towel when you don't know who's there, or don't get in a car with a stranger. I think she's on a mission, and that she's got tunnel vision and she knows where she's trying to go, and I just don't think she cares about anything else. So wrapped in a towel, Joan lets him in. He says he wanted to see how she's doing and notes she's up at least. I think she must have been asleep for a while. He said she was pretty zonked out. She slept for 4 hours in the car. She apologizes, and Bill tells her she never has to apologize to him. He just wants to help. And here we see her kind of joining reality a little, and she's like, "Why are you helping me?" And here he asks her if she believes in God, to which she replies no twice. Bill goes on to say people look for God in candles and church, but that he looks for God in coincidences and unlikely things that happen. He says Joan looks so much like someone he hasn't seen in a long time. And on this rewatch, I thought to myself right here, it's yeah, dude, this is a coincidence, but you're barking up the wrong tree. This is not God. Coincidentally,
Quite the opposite.
Yeah, quite the opposite. So I just thought that was, which you wouldn't know your first watch, but on subsequent watches, it's like, oh, dude,
Yeah.
you're really off here.
Well, they're two sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's very true. But you can even see it her kind of like, I mean, she doesn't realize who they are yet, but you can almost kind of see her smirk a little at his God belief. She doesn't like, she's not in his face about it or anything, but you can just kind of tell she's just like, I'm at one with Satan, sir, and you just don't know what you're talking about. You know? Like, I got the inside track on Satan, and yeah, you believe what you want.
That's so funny.
But she just kind of sits there. She doesn't really say anything. I think she just like didn't want to get into it with him, you know. But you could tell she's just like, okay, please be done talking so that you can go away.
Yeah, she seems uncomfortable.
Yes, thank you, exactly. So he says he sees a coincidence in her. He sees God in her, and that she said she was going to Portsmouth. He couldn't ignore the sign, so he saw God in her. She asked Bill if he's also going to Portsmouth, and he says no, they're headed for Bramford, the town just before it. And then you can see her kind of like, you know, like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she's lying about the Portsmouth thing. Like, she's trying to get to Bramford.
Do you think so? Because I think that she's actually trying to go to Portsmouth.
No, I think no.
Like, well, I kind of feel like, I mean, she's supposed to be Kat, right? But I don't think that she's planning on going to Bramford or doing what she does to them. I think she's trying to, like, get away. Because when she's looking at the map, she's looking between Ellenville and Bramford and then to Portsmouth. And it just kind of has that POV over the map, like going back and forth. So I think that she's nervous about passing by Bramford and she just wants to skip it, you know, like I think that she's trying to get past whatever that part of her life was.
Yeah, I think the opposite. I think that for 9 years, I'm gonna play my cards now. I think for 9 years, she has been wanting to get back to, I think, the last thing that she thought that she really had, like, because later we see a scene where when they do the exorcism on her, where she says to the devil, please don't leave me. Mm-hmm. And I think that I think she was making a beeline for Bramford. I don't know. Maybe she thinks that people will figure out who she is if she says she wants to go to Bramford, that she's the one that killed the people. But I don't know. So I can't say for sure on this. In my mind, she was on a one-track mission to get to Bramford. Now, she wasn't planning on, so obviously okay, I'm going to get way ahead of us here, but obviously she likes to give heads as presents, like to cut off people's heads and give them as gifts or offerings to whatever this thing is. So I think this was just like an added bonus. I think she was going no matter what, but then I think got to ultimately bring the ultimate gift at the end by running into who she ran into.
Okay.
But that's just what I think.
Yeah.
He asks if she knows Bramford, to which she responds by asking when they leave. Bill asks, what's your hurry? Joan asks Bill where his wife is. Playing cat and mouse here. And he says, she's sleeping. Why? In the following silence, I think here she was kind of like realizing, like, does this guy want me for like something kinky or, you know, something.
I was trying to kind of like figure him out a little bit too, you know, in the beginning before he reveals who he is.
Yeah.
And like when his wife was nervous about him picking her up, I'm like, uh-oh, is he like a weirdo? And she knows he's a weirdo, you know what I mean? And then it ends up being something totally different and innocent. But
I thought the same thing too. The first time I watched it, I'm like, what's with this guy? Something's bad's going to happen to her now, you know, or I didn't know what to think, but
I think it's hard not to see it that way. I would be interested if our male listeners want to tell us if that was their first inclination as men. I think as women, that's clearly going to be what we think first. So just a heads up if you guys want to answer that on the Facebook group out of curiosity.
Yeah, that would be very interesting because this is I think this is why we're covering this so early. This is such a female and female-centric movie. That's why I made the comment that it was nice to get the guys' feedback at the beginning, that it was all guys, because it's very interesting how they would see a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, this movie, though, got guys, girls, whoever hasn't seen it, we're going way super in-depth. This is a movie you could just sit back and enjoy and watch as a horror movie. You don't got to worry about all this stuff, the minutia that we're talking about right now. Like, if you want it, like, I think you could watch it once and not get any answers and be just as satisfied and be like, man, that was a really good horror movie. You know, like, I think it's very, very deep and there's a lot to discuss. But if you don't want to watch it like that, I don't think you have to either. Like,
yeah,
you know, if this just seems like a real indie artsy kind of movie, which it kind of is, don't be put off by that, because I think it's enjoyable on its own.
Yeah, I agree, because it is actually kind of a slow burn, and you know, some people don't like that, or they don't like that term. But it is like so unsettling and creepy at the same time. I think the way that the music's used throughout and the occasional musical stingers and stuff is like used very, very well. It's like a quiet movie, but I feel like there's a lot going on that I just don't understand. But even though I don't understand it, like, it's still effectively creepy for me, and I still enjoy watching it. So I agree that you could just watch it as like just a total art film if you wanted to, and not try to dive too deeply into all the meaning, or you could dive into all the meaning and figure out all this time travel shit that people keep talking about that I'm not understanding.
I totally agree. And I mean, I think I have it figured out, but I'm not anybody. Like, I don't know if it's right. It's just what I think, you know? So I'm sure people will disagree with me. So now we're going back to stuff starting to get rolling now. So we're going back to the Branford School. Rose is in the bathroom and says to Kat, who is taking a shower, "Do you know how much trouble I can get into for this?" And in the following silence, asks if she needs a towel. We cut to being in Kat's bedroom, where Rose asks her what she's doing in the basement of the school, as well as if she was sleepwalking. This is kind of a weird jump, because you see this girl downstairs doing this weird bowing thing, and the next scene is she has taken her. What did she do? Go in there, like, and be like, "Hey, what are you know, like,
she must have.
Can you stop that devil worshiping for a moment and come with me?" You know, like, we don't get to see, like, how did she handle that? Because, like, I would have been like, you know what, bye. I'm not staying here with this girl. I'd have called my parents for real, I think, and got the heck out of there. But somehow, when she says, you know, I get in trouble for this, like, what, for rescuing her from devil worshiping? I don't know, but she must have got her out of the basement and up into the shower somehow.
Totally.
She asked her, "Were you sleepwalking?" And Kat slowly responds, "Mm." And then the two girls talk. Rose says Kat's parents just got she keeps trying to, like, pacify Kat, like, don't worry, your parents are coming, you know.
Yeah, I feel like at this point she kind of feels a little responsible for, like, leaving her behind and then coming back to her doing this weird shit and being like, okay, there's something wrong with her, and she's like worried about her parents, so she's just trying to kind of like comfort her, you know, and like it seems like she's finally kind of taking a role of like, okay, yes, I'm the upperclassman and I need to kind of comfort this young person who's clearly nervous, you know, and at this point, Kat's kind of just like, I don't need you. You don't know anything, basically, kind of in her attitude. She doesn't talk like that, but.
Well, she's like, I don't really need you because I have Satan.
Exactly.
Okay. So, yeah, Rose says Kat's parents just got confused on their way to the school. Kat says Rose's parents didn't get confused. She told them not to come so she could go on her date. Rose responds, it wasn't a date. Kat says it's too late. Oh, here's where Kat starts to turn on Rose a little bit. I think her devil worshiping got to her. Kat starts saying these weird things. Like, here she says it's too late and that her parents are dead. Rose is disturbed by this. I hope so. And tells her not to say such things. She says their parents will be there on Friday and asks Kat if there's anything she can get her. Kat says, no, you had your chance. as Mr. Gordon had told her to keep her eye on Kat. Rose goes to her room and locks her door and blocks it with furniture. Smart move.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to, and this is Jess's word. We cut to Kat in her room doing some freaky contortionist shit on her bed. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Those are my words.
Yes. And I don't know how else you would. That is some freaky contortionist shit. Okay. Going back in time or forward in time again, 9 years. We're in the restaurant.
By the way, when we first saw Joan at the bus stop, did it say like 9 years later or anything, or we just figure it out based on her and Bill's conversation right now?
He says that his daughter died. He didn't say how 9 years ago, and they come every year on the anniversary. So that's me saying that. I don't think it ever tells us that. So
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Because I know he tells her that right now in the restaurant, but
Bill. Okay, so Joan meets Bill in the restaurant, and he hands her a jacket that belongs to Linda, his wife, that's thicker than hers, as Linda doesn't need it anymore. He says Linda will join them soon. Bill goes on to say that the person Joan reminds him of is his daughter, who died 9 years ago tomorrow. And you can tell Joan/Kat's mind is now starting, the cogs are turning.
Mm-hmm.
He and Linda go to put flowers on her grave every year on the anniversary of her death. Bill shows Joan a picture of his daughter. So that let me just intersperse here the fact that I don't think the fact that she broke out of the hospital on this date is significant. And that's why I think that's her mission. Like, I don't think it's a mistake that she picked that exact day 9 years later to leave the hospital. Or if not, it's the biggest coincidence in the world it's the anniversary of when she killed 3 people.
Which is proof of God. Biggest coincidence in the world. No devil without God. I'm saying.
It's all coming to me now. Bill shows Joan a picture of his daughter, and it's the same school pictures that we saw at the beginning that Kat was lovingly petting. And it's Rose's school picture that we see her take at the beginning of the movie. Joan responds that she is pretty. Joan rushes to the bathroom just like, she straight up books it. Like, he's like mid-sentence. She sees the picture. She like shoots up and heads to the bathroom. Just as the waitress walks up and makes a strange sound to herself in the stall, which I thought was laughing.
I was trying to figure that out. I'm like, is she like giggling with glee, or is she just kind of like,
I think
overwhelmed?
No, she just realizes she just hit the frickin'. I think she's thinking, yeah, you and your God coincidences. Satan just set me up with the parents of the chick that I murdered, and I'm the one who's getting the payoff here. And she laughs to herself. That is my and she is gleeful. I think right then she's planning to. That's when the murder gets planned. That's what I think. I don't think she was planning it when she left. I don't think she knew how she was going to get there, but I think this is just the icing on. Now she doesn't have to kill some random people to get her head offering. I think to her, this is like the ultimate, like she can't believe the good fortune that she's having. When she looks in the mirror, we see a memory of her choking a nurse and stealing her ID, Joan Marsh from Rhode Island. Joan also touches her hair for a moment. Maybe she's a true brunette and her blonde is dyed. When she comes out of the bathroom, there's a police officer talking to Bill at the table. When the officer leaves, Joan comes back to the table where Bill tells her that the storm is apparently going to get worse, and if they don't leave now, they'll be trapped at the hotel. So he had the restaurant pack their food, and he asked Joan to wait for the food and meet him while he goes to get the car.
And you can see, based on my notes, that hair comment I made indicates I still don't understand that she's Kat at this point.
Yeah, I knew that. But, I mean, maybe she's not really blonde. Even when she's Kat, we don't really know. Because she does have, like, roots. In the car,
Thanks for trying to make me feel better.
Yeah. In the car, Joan sits with Linda, and Linda asks Joan if Bill told her about their daughter. She goes on to talk about Bill's verbiage in regards to this. He said have instead of had, didn't he? He told you look like her, didn't he? He says that to everyone, poor thing. Linda says she never sees it except once in a supermarket. A girl of about 15 was looking at something on a lower shelf and was clutching money so tightly in her fist that her knees were pink, and she wore a uniform skirt with no socks in her shoes, and she had a ponytail, and it was really cold out. That's why her knees were pink. Linda stops talking and looks at Joan directly for the first time and says, "You don't look anything like her. It's strange. I can't see you at all." I thought that was such a weird comment. I still don't know what that means. I was like,
yeah.
Man. Bill gets into the car. All right. Going back in time now. Back to the Bramford school, back to that night. Actually, to the next morning, after she's barricaded herself in the room, Rose wakes up in her bed and leaves her room to see Kat getting off the phone in the hallway. And I think this is the roundabout where the phone rang before and then it faded to black. I think this is picking back up at that point. And now we're going to kind of see what happened for those last 24 hours, I think. When Rose asks her how the call went, Kat responds, "He said it's all right. He says I can't live here, but I can with him. You know who? Mr. Gordon, silly. He's the headmaster." Rose is clearly unnerved and confused by Kat.
Yeah, and the way she delivered these lines was kind of weird. It was like, he said that I can live here with him. And she kind of pauses, and Rose is like, who? Mr. Gordon, of course. Not.
I wonder, no, because I don't know why she says Mr. Gordon, because I thought maybe
she doesn't want to say Satan.
Yeah, that's true. Because he doesn't try to sound like Mr. Gordon on the phone. He sounds like Satan.
Yeah.
Like I know Satan calls me all the time, so I know what his voice sounds like.
Exactly.
In the next scene, the girls are seated at a table for a meal, and the nurses again, and while everyone recites grace, Kat withholds. One of the nurses asks her what's wrong, to which Kat responds nothing and begins to say grace per the nurse's instruction, but she soon veers off course and stands up and vomits on the table, to Rose's disgust. I think that's because she was saying holy words. She's full of Satan at this point.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And the impression I got.
Yes.
And I'm sorry I put nurses instead of sisters, because I was just that was how I was first introduced to them, was in the nurse's office. So
it is. I think it's all the same place. I think it's probably like where the nuns live or whatever, but that's where you go if you're sick too.
Right.
So I'm just going to that's what I would call it, the nurse's office. So in the nurse's office, Kat looks sick and exhausted. Rose asks if the headmaster called, to which one of the nurses replies, "Why would he?" Rose asks if Kat's parents are okay, and the nurse responds that of course they are, as is Kat. When the other nurse goes to place medication in Kat's hand, Kat tells her not to touch her, you cunt.
I like how you started laughing before you said it.
Yes. I mean, I had to withstand Catholic school, and if I could have, I fantasized about being able to say something like that. The phone rings and the nurses look at each other nervously and tearfully. After they answer, because I think this is when they get the news that Kat's parents are dead.
That's what I assumed too, and they never actually get to that, but I figure that that's what's going on.
Because then they're aware that the headmaster's on his way. Mm-hmm. So I think it was the headmaster saying, they're not coming and we're coming with the police. Kat babbles to Rose about the headmaster coming back. Like, see, I told you he was coming. And now you can see Rose is kind of like, what the heck is going on? Because she had told her he was coming. And Rose is like, you're insane. Why? He's gone. Nobody's coming. And Kat was very insistent up until, yes, the headmaster is going to be coming and I'm going to be allowed to stay here. And now this is like coming to fruition. So you can kind of like see Rose is like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So Kat babbles to Rose about the headmaster coming back, saying that she will be able to live there before the nurses call Rose over to tell her something. One of the nurses asks Rose to shovel some of the snow for Mr. Gordon's arrival down to the earth, she says. She thinks this is a punishment at first, but it's needed because he really is on his way. All right, cut to Rose shoveling snow outside. After shoveling for a while, Rose walks over to room 604 and knocks because she hears music, but no one ever answers. She goes back to her room. I think she tried a couple doors, so she got done shoveling, And she tried to get back in, like where she came out, that was locked. I think then she tries the other door, that's locked. And it looks like she ends up going back to the dorms, right? She goes back to her room and takes a nap. Later, we see state troopers arrive with Mr. Gordon, who leads them to room 604, where he's unable to lock the door. Which, this is weird because, like, we see him with keys later, but I don't know. He just starts trying different doors to get in at first. We get to see, this is a cool panning shot. So you don't get to see what's on the floor, but the camera's pointing towards the door, and we're now on the inside of the nurse's office or whatever. You hear the knock from the outside, you know it's him, but then he like realizes he can't get in. So it does this pan really slow and gets to the other door where we see our first blood. There's blood smeared on the wall, like in a handprint. And we see or can hear him like, why can't I get in? Why aren't they answering? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Gordon, Roommate watches Mr. Gordon enters another way and calls out Mrs. Prescott before entering the doorway and clasping his hand over his mouth, which immediately cuts off. Okay. I think we're going, now we're going all the way back to the beginning. Now they finally give us Kat's name. Or this is like divided into chapters. The first one was Rose, then Joan, and now we get Kat's chapter kind of telling her story. And this is where I feel like we're going all the way back to the beginning of the movie where I said she was like staring out the window, and we're going to find out everything that's happened that's now led to this like blood smear on the wall. Yeah. So we're back to Kat in a classroom looking out the window. We cut to her again, then crossing off an X on the 21st of February where the movie had opened. And then we see that vision of Joan from earlier of the toes with red painted toenails peeping out of a bathtub, and the camera moves to reflect a shadowy figure across the bathroom wall tiles. And this is the first time we really see the shape of this thing that I just thought was, this is one of those good ones where they never, like, they just give you a shape of the monster. They never just like fill in the details in it. I don't know. I just think it's so disturbing looking. Really.
Me too. Yeah. Sometimes I wish they would stick with this kind of a thing instead of showing us the full creature or entity or whatever, because then sometimes it gets ruined.
Exactly.
Like, just let it be mysterious. That's fine.
And it's very mysterious. And I think what also makes it's just like super tall and just gross. It gives me goosebumps looking at it. Then we cut to Kat on the public phone trying to call her parents. This is, like I said before, these are overlapping stories. So we've talked about this stuff, but now you're going to get to hear what Kat was hearing or what Kat was experiencing, I guess.
From her own point of view instead of other people's.
Right. She hears a strange voice come through briefly, and then it says her name. Who is it, she asks. The phone gurgles some words. They're not coming. And sorry, my allergies are bothering me, so I can't do a deep voice, and kill all the cunts. And Kat hangs up slowly. Like,
that's what I think I heard. Like, I turned up my TV all the way.
It is, because I had my closed captions on. That's exactly what they say. Some of it, the closed caption just like said static or weird noise or whatever. Yeah. But no, he does say kill all the cunts.
Okay.
So then we cut to all the girls in the lunchroom eating and praying before cutting to Kat behind the curtain on stage right before she's going to perform her song. Then we cut to Rose telling Kat about the sister. So this is you're going through all the scenes that we already saw from Rose's point of view. Now we're seeing them all from Kat's point of view.
Yeah, so it's like jumping around.
Right. We cut to Rose telling Kat about the sisters not having any hair on their bodies. The way she hears the voice has a creepy demonic voice effect over it. And the same shadowy horned figure from the bathtub earlier is now shown fuzzily in the corner of the room behind Rose. We cut to Rose getting in the car with her boyfriend and Kat looking at her picture through the viewfinder in the envelope, and then the phone ringing. Kat picks up the phone in the hallway and simply says hi, but she says it kind of tentatively, like she knows it's Satan. Like, hi. Hey, what up?
What's up, Daddy?
The voice tells her she can stay there with him. We cut to room 604 where one nurse has her throat slit and the other is dead or will be soon, laying in a puddle of her own blood. The other nurse is crawling along the floor. Don't see any of the wounds yet. The voice is still talking on the phone in the background, but you have your notes. You can't make out what he's saying, and the violin is playing. Mm-hmm. Here comes one of the most brutal scenes I've ever seen. This reminds me of the scenes that I don't want to watch for the next kinder trauma in Last House on the Left, you know? Ooh. So
it is brutal.
Yeah, Kat goes and stands over the nurse that's still alive. This is like after she cut her throat. So she's in the throes of dying, and stabs her in the back with the same knife she used to split the other nurse's throat. We can now see the other nurse is still barely alive. Now, this stabbing scene, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 times, but it's very purposeful. The camera is right on it. You can hear every noise of the knife going in and out.
Yeah.
And this woman is still alive. It's just absolutely horrifying. Like, I mean, we should say great props. That looked really good, but it did.
It did.
It really just,
yeah.
And this is where this movie starts to go off the rails. This is the slow burn we were telling you about, because now Satan has taken over.
Totally. And she's like repeatedly stabbing her. Not like super quick though, but like you said, like with intention.
Like,
yeah. Like just that. Enough time to give her like a tiny respite.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Make her think maybe she won't stab me again.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this lady was like already dying and would have died anyway, but it's like she just wanted to make it as bad for her as possible, I think. Yeah. So we cut to Rose getting her picture taken and smiling for the camera. So we've gone completely full circle here now. Her face then slowly dissolves into a somber and woeful one, because I think in hindsight, it's like she's going to take this perfect picture, but in her mind, probably all she can think about is, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, even I'm going to take this perfect picture, but you just never have any idea what's really going on behind those perfect school pictures that you see.
Yeah.
And to back that up, we then cut to her rubbing her belly and inspecting it in the mirror in her bedroom. We cut to Rose in the bathroom sighing with relief when she gets her period. She hears the sound of a stall door and calls out, Catherine, Catherine. No one answers. No one answers, and we just hear the main door close. This is really creepy because I'm not 100% sure it was Catherine at this point. Rose comes out of her stall and walks into the hall. So this starts like this really, like, one thing this movie does is make you experience a lot of this stuff in real time. Like, instead of just like cutting like, oh, she's here, and we literally walk through the school with Rose as she's looking for Kat and getting scareder and scareder, I think, because I mean, she's already well aware that she's like messed up at this point. Rose comes out of her stall and walks into the hall where a door shuts at the end before she can see who just walked through it. She walks down the hallway, goes through the door to a stairwell. She sees, now I was going to ask you, who was that, do you think? She sees a body bloody at the bottom of the stairwell.
I don't know.
Because it's not either of the sisters, and the headmaster and the police haven't come in yet.
Yeah. No,
so
I don't
unless
know.
It looked like they were like in a tan colored, I'm not 100% sure. It didn't look like the other policeman had a dark colored outfit on. Maybe it was a security guard or somebody, but I replayed that trying to figure out who it was, and I still don't know. But anyway, they're just random.
I think I went back like 3 times and I was like, I don't know, but I'm sure that they'll point it out at some point, but then they didn't.
They don't. All I can guess is Kat has been on a rampage. Like, she left the nurses. She's ahead of the headmaster. But maybe there's someone else at the school we didn't know about, maybe a handyman, or it kind of looked like, I mean, I thought because of the color they were wearing, because both of the nurses or sisters kind of wore like browns and tans and stuff, and it looked like somebody in tan clothing, but I still can't say with certainty who I think that was. But she looks down, she's going around calling for Kat, and she comes around a corner and looks at the bottom of the stairs, and there is a crumpled, stabbed several times body there. So Kat's on her someone's on a murder spree.
Yeah. And she later on, she only has 3 heads in front of the
that's true.
Furnace.
Who the heck is that?
I don't know. Did a nurse crawl out? Because I don't know where like room 604 is. in relation to this part of whatever building.
Well, the one
I
that she
don't know.
didn't, the one she didn't repeatedly stab, I guess we don't ever see for sure that she's dead, right? Because like Kat goes back and the one that she repeatedly stabs, she like feels her for a pulse and sees that she's still alive, and then repeatedly stabs her. But she just,
Mhm.
I think she just assumed the other nurse was dead, but I don't know that we ever know that. So possibly it was her. That seems a little far-fetched because she was like grievously wounded, and
Yeah,
she would have
I don't
had to have
think she
come
could
from
have crawled
outside
out.
across to the dorms to get.
Huh.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know.
Listeners,
Maybe
tell
have
us
to
who
do a
you think it
little.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell us.
Um. So, she shuts the door and heads back the way she came. When Kat enters from an adjacent room, Exorcist 3 style, you know what I'm talking about with that scene, with the knife and starts to stab Rose repeatedly. Rose slumps to the floor and bleeds out. She kind of does a slow stab on her too, that repeated
Mhm.
stabbing, and it's just, I don't know. I liked Rose and I was kind of invested in her, and it was kind of hard to watch for sure.
Yeah, and
Um,
the musical stinger when
yeah,
Cat appears is like very good.
it was
Very
so
well
good.
placed. Yeah.
But it's real Exorcist 3 style where she just comes
Yeah.
out like oh my God, where did she come from? And she's like at full run. And
Yes.
yeah, oh, it's
So
terrible.
scary.
There was no way. Rose was done for. She couldn't have gotten away if she wanted to. Rose slumps to the
No.
floor and bleeds out. Kat then crouches down by Rose's lifeless body, pulls her head up slowly by the hair, and the screen goes black. So you think maybe she's gonna slit her throat, but oh no, much
It's much
worse.
worse.
Yeah. We cut back now to Mr. Gordon and the state trooper entering 604. Then we cut to bloody trails in the snow and bloody trails on the windows and in the hallway until one of the state troopers enters the boiler room and finds Kat kneeling before the furnace with the decapitated heads of the nurses and Rose all in a line next to her. And she's just kneeling there, staring into the fire. He tells Kat to drop the knife. She looks crazy and pale, and she does too. She looks awful. He says he'll shoot her if she doesn't drop the knife. Kat kind of like stares at him for a minute, but then she raises her knife in, raises her arms in the air, still holding the knife, and says, "Hail Satan! Hail Satan!" She goes to yell, and the state trooper shoots her in the shoulder. Now do you get it?
Oh,
Now do you get it?
I see. Did we see him shoot her in the shoulder, or that's just what we figure out
That's
because of
just
the
what we
scar?
figure out because of the scar, because it's a
Okay.
perfect little round scar.
Right, because
And
we
it
can
didn't kill her.
assume.
Wherever he shot her, it didn't kill her. So
Right, but we could have, if we didn't know that Joan was Cat, then we could have maybe assumed that, oh, maybe she died from getting shot, but then no, she didn't because she's actually Joan.
right.
Okay.
Right. That's my interpretation. Listeners, feel free to argue with me. It took me several watches to put all of that together. I didn't even cheat and look on YouTube or anything. I just I thought I knew. And then when I watched it this time, I watched it with the eyes of like, is my interpretation correct? And I'm pretty sold on the fact that I think that I'm right. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody thinks, right? The Joan is Cat. I don't get it. Is that supposed to be Cat like in 9 years?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think that's what's confusing because Emma Roberts looks like she's like the same age as Kiernan Shipka. Is she supposed to be like older at
Yeah,
that
she's
point?
so if she's a freshman, what is she like 15? So now she's like 24, I would say. And that's Joan. She's only taking the name Joan because she stole that woman's
Right.
ID.
Oh,
Um,
she looks so young to me that I was like, the age isn't working though.
I
And then
think that's what
I thought that's maybe what people were saying about like time travel or something. I was like, oh, is that because I don't know.
well, I think you have to put all these clues together. You cannot visually, I don't think, discern that that is Kat. And she's never called Kat, never says Kat. Nobody
Yeah.
ever, nobody,
And
none
like,
of
why
her.
would they use a different actress except to throw us off?
Maybe maybe because he wants to keep you guessing. Because if he'd have just somehow made Kiernan look older, you wouldn't. None of this would be a mystery.
Right. That must be it.
He's trying to just, because like I said, nobody ever calls her Cat. None of her flashbacks, nobody calls her Cat. There's no, you're left with nothing but to interpret that, or whatever you interpret, that is Cat.
Yeah.
So I think if they had just, makeup.
I have to say, I feel like it's kind of a cheat, but that's okay. That's okay. I get it, like, for the purpose of what he's going for.
It seems to be what
he needed to do.
Yeah, most people have the most problem with. She does have that same I'm sure it's makeup, but they did a really good job of giving her those same haunted eyes that Kiernan has. Those dark, I'm sure it's just dark makeup around her eyes, but just hollowed out look that she has.
Right.
Okay, finish this up. We cut to Joan in the back of the car, so we're back to nine years in the future now. And like I said, we just left with Cat we assume being shot. We cut to Joan in the back of the car as they pass a sign that says Brantford 3 miles. And Joan now, who is sitting very quietly in the back of the car, is really starting to seem gleeful to me anyway. Like she's excited about something. Even though
she seems like she has like a purpose now, whereas earlier she kind of just seemed like she was wandering and didn't know what she was going to do.
Yeah.
Now it seems like she knows exactly what she's going to do.
Because if she did just escape from a mental institution by killing a nurse, she didn't leave with much. Maybe at the most whatever this nurse had in her pocketbook, and definitely not a coat. So I think she was really lost, and I think I think this is feeding into her thought that she's special and that Satan is setting all of this up for her. I truly believe she thinks that Bill and Linda are a gift from Satan, and that she's going to pay him back in the way that she ends up paying him back. We cut to Joan in the back of the car as they pass the sign, this is Brantford 3 miles. Linda asked Bill if he told her. Did you tell her? Did you tell her that she was murdered? When you meet these people, do you ever tell them that they had to do blood tests to match the head to the body? Just focus on the road. Don't touch me. Joan asked Bill if he can pull over because she feels sick. And this is right as they're driving by the Brantford school. Linda cries, begging Bill not to stop and to keep going because this is where her daughter was. Why did they, is there only one road that goes wherever they're going to the cemetery or whatever? Like, why would you even go in a direction that took you right in front of the school if you know it upsets your wife so much, Yeah. I mean, obviously for the story, because they want Joan to act sick and throw up and need to pull over and all that right in front of the school, but.
Right.
So Linda cries, begging Bill not to stop here, and to keep going. Once they stop, Joan slits. They stop because Joan says she has to throw up. She doesn't miss a beat. They pull over. She springs up and slits Bill's throat and stabs Linda repeatedly to death. Her famous. This time she does it quickly this time. Joan does throw up. In the car shortly after. We watch Joan pull Bill's head back just before decapitating him. Joan pulls her suitcase out of the trunk, which was she carrying an empty suitcase? Because when she pulls it out of the trunk, it's empty. So did she have this? Was she going to try to get two heads or a couple heads and
I don't know. I was wondering, or if she just took one of their suitcases and just dumped it out or something. Because I didn't know she even had a suit. Why would she even have a suitcase if she escaped from the mental institution?
It must be theirs because she didn't have one at the bus stop, right?
I don't think so. I think she's always just had that purse. Yeah.
Okay. She pulls a suitcase out of the trunk and places Bill's and Linda's heads in it. She throws a jacket on and starts to wipe blood off of her face with tissues. This is such a weird, funny scene.
I know, it is kind of weirdly funny.
Her face is, she just decapitated two people. She's covered in blood. She takes this tissue, makes a few quick wipes on her face, and then starts putting on makeup.
Yeah.
Which makes no difference. But I think she's trying to look good for her man,
Oh, you think that's what it is?
Yeah.
I don't think it's her man. I think it's her daddy. I think this is her replacement daddy for her daddy issues, is what I'm assuming.
But she wants to put makeup on for him?
Oh, I just assumed that was just because she
She
had
just
blood
wants to
holes.
look good because she
Yeah.
looks sallow and washed out.
Yeah.
All right. Dun, da, da. That, okay, fade to black there. So now we're going back in time again to, I believe, right after she was shot by the police, and now she's in the hospital. Which this, I got to ask you when we're done with this little bit, what you think about this guy. We cut to Kat in a bed in the hospital with her hands bound by restraints, and father enters the room. And this is the one she was talking to at the beginning about that she wished he could be there for her recital, and he said he was going to New York, and that, he was trying to talk to her, and she was staring out the window and not really responding. So that was that's where the movie opens.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was the same guy.
Yeah. The father asked Catherine, and places his hands on her forehead. When she looks up at him and smiles, he says, "There you are," and starts doing an exorcism on her. What did you think of this guy? Is he just doing it because he thinks she would only have killed these people and stuff? Because he doesn't come into her room like mad at her. He's very tender with her and kind of sweet and loving towards her. It's almost like he knew, then I started thinking about what Rose said about, about the sisters, they worship the devil and don't have any hair and all that. Is there something bigger going on at the school? Because, or what are we not seeing? Because, okay, now he gets Kat to wake up. She locks eyes with him. He can tell, that he's got her attention. He starts doing an exorcism on her. No questions asked, nothing. You are not wanted here. I say you will go from this place. You will leave here. You will leave this poor girl, and you will never come back. Cut to Joan breaking through the gates of the Bramford School. A framed picture of Rose lies outside in the ground in the snow, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Really weird and random.
I think maybe I wonder if the father could, because I feel like if Kat, that she is clearly an obvious choice for Satan to target her. Like she's clearly naive and lonely. And, I'm sure that at that point he knew that her parents had died on the way there. So I don't know. I think that maybe he's just genuinely on her side, like on real Kat's side. So I don't know. But I did think it was weird that whole story about the sisters worshiping Satan, I don't know if that's just a fun rumor, to circulate around a Catholic school. Because what else are you going to have rumors about? So I don't know if there's some bigger conspiracy there or not.
I don't know either. It just seemed kind of weird that
he entered so nonchalantly.
That and well, I mean, a lot of churches don't like to believe in mental illness and, that kind of thing. So it has to be Satan.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that he fully believed that she was possessed by Satan.
Yeah. He just seemed, unless maybe I don't know. There's no lead up to it. We just see him go in there and start doing an exorcism. So I just wonder how he got to that, deduction that had she been saying that she sees Satan? How did they get there? How did he get to the point that she needs exorcism? It might just be that the movie never shows and some other things have happened and we just didn't see it. But so, yeah.
True. That is kind of weird just because it seems like in every other exorcism movie, it's such a big deal. Everything has to be vetted and approved and all this stuff. And he just goes into her hospital room and just performs an exorcism.
Yeah, straight up. Cut to the father preparing materials to deal with the demonic entity that lives in Kat's body. Bible, holy water, cross, which he kisses. Cutting back to Joan in the school. Cut back to the father. I command you to leave this place. I command that you go out. The power of Christ compels you. I demand you to leave this girl and never come back, while he throws holy water on her. Suddenly, Kat can see this shadowy figure in the corner of the hospital room and begs, "Don't go," before we see the figure disappear. So his exorcism worked. Yeah, it was really. It was so sad. It's like, why? Oh my God, I'm rooting for I'm rooting for Satan and Cat. But I was.
I know. I'm a little invested in poor lonely Cat.
I know, me too. All right, back to Joan. Joan walks with the lighter through the hallways of the dark school. This is, oh my gosh, this is when things start to really get sad. Like, Emma Roberts deserves an Oscar for her portrayal of anguish. I'm sorry, but she does. Joan walks with the lighter through the hallways of the dark school until she comes to the furnace in the basement. Cut to Joan outside of the school, walking in the snow when she starts to cry and cover her mouth as she howls in despair. Because when she got to the basement, the fire was out of the furnace. So she knew he was gone. She uncovers her mouth and the background music gets louder and we see her continue to cry but can no longer hear her. Then she's out in the road and she just, and it's like day now, so I don't know if she's been wandering around or what, because it was like night when she got there. But I think she then realizes like she escaped and killed people and did all this for nothing. Like the exorcism worked and he's gone. This is my interpretation. That she just, you know, she's, the end of the movie is just this, is her just standing in the road in just total anguish. Just, like I said, she deserves an Oscar for that. I just totally felt for her. And then that's it. So
yeah, that makes sense to me. How sad. Yeah, so I guess
I mean, it's heavy, but like, so now like I tend to not believe the mental illness thing. I tend to believe that, I mean, I don't know what all my religious beliefs are and all that, but in this movie, I tend to believe that that was a real experience for her, and that I don't know if that was already going on at the school, if there was something more to that story, but I think that something connected with her, because you're right. She's like the perfect entity, perfect for an entity to enter, because she's so hollow anyway, it seems like, you know, and just so needy and doesn't seem to have, I don't know, she's just so withdrawn into herself. She's just doesn't seem to have real, I mean, she calls her dad daddy and all that, and it just seems like even if they were on their way and died on their way to get her, they hadn't had much communication with her anyway. It doesn't seem like she ever really solidified, you know, plans with them and stuff. So it just, maybe she was kind of like shoved off to boarding school and is just kind of having a lonely existence. And I don't think the girls were even really like necessarily ostracizing her. I think she just didn't fit in and didn't care that she didn't fit in, but she was just like, yeah, the perfect vessel for this entity to enter.
Right.
So,
yeah. I feel like in this case too, I feel like it's actually Satan. I don't think that she's mentally ill. Not that that's always the case, but I think in this particular movie that is the case, or that's what I want to believe anyways.
I'm not saying she has all of her mental faculties. I do think that she's probably suffering from depression and anxiety and all sorts of things. But I do think she was living in a well, I don't even want to say living in a fantasy world, because I think it was very real to her. But she was very out of touch with reality, and just I mean, I think Satan could be cruel like that, you know, make promises like that and then just leave her and go on to something else.
It's not his fault. It's the father's fault for
true.
exercising him.
But I mean,
now that makes this even sadder. Now that you're like, you know, he was exercised and he wasn't there at the school waiting. I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably
because his last, that's the cruelty. His last promise to her is, you can live here with me. And so when she came back to live with him, he was really honestly gone. And so it was just,
now she has no place in the world again.
Nope. And now she's killed, what, 5 people at least, or 6 maybe if you count the nurse, if she killed the nurse at this point. So, and then the mystery person in the hallway, maybe 7. We don't know.
Yeah, who's the mystery person in the hallway? I need to know.
Yeah, that's the one thing I never figured out. But
yeah, it's very weird, because it seems like everything is so like intricately or maybe not intricate, like meticulously planned out, you know? And I don't know who that body was. So, listeners, tell us who's the crumpled corpse at the bottom of the stairs?
Maybe it's Osgood's way of like putting the feeler out there that she's done even more than I'm showing you in this movie, or you know, than I'm letting you see, or like she's killed more people. I don't know, because
Yeah.
it's the total one-off. I have no idea. But
I do kind of wish we got like a little more of Kat's relationship with Satan and how that all developed, because it kind of just seemed like it just happened, like he just called her on the phone and was like, this is what's happening, and she's just like, okay. You know, like I want to see him kind of lure her to the dark side with, you know, his love and promising that she won't be lonely or something.
I mean, the way the movie makes it seem like him coming to her in that dream at the beginning, if that's what you believe is what happened, that was him holding her hand and showing her the wreck and saying, you know, they're not coming, they're dead.
Hmm.
Maybe that's the first time we see him interact with her, but maybe it's not. Maybe because she was already staring out the window in the priest's office at the beginning, so like she was engaged with something else. So maybe this has been going on for a while. But I agree with you. Like, I wish there had been more phone calls or more like bargaining between the two of them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm going to take your parents. What are you going to do for me? Kind of thing. I don't know. Just like, or if I take your parents, will you stay here with me or do my bidding? Or I don't know. You're right, though.
Do you
What we,
think that she wanted him to take her parents?
I don't know. Because like I said, we don't
Oh.
ever get to see into her life other
Yeah,
than
like
what we
maybe
see
she
there.
secretly wished her parents were dead. That would have been cool.
Right. And
Oh,
that you could, I think you could still think that if you wanted to. It's just that it
yeah.
cold opens with that, so you just don't know. You know, it cold opens with her parents in a her being shown her parents dead in a car, or at
Hmm.
least one of them dead in the car. And you know, I think that was already him, but I don't think you have to think that. I think you could think that was her real dad and that she was
Yeah.
having a bad dream. But yeah, I think you're right. Like the way that we get it in the movie, she's totally invested in Satan after one phone call.
Right. And I was
So
thinking of it from the perspective of like, okay, he's breaking this terrible news to you that your parents are going to die. You know what I mean? And then you're supposed to just like be cool with him and be on his side, or like, are you grateful because he gave you a warning? Or did you in fact want your parents to die, which I think would have been cool, because
and
that could be like a childish, kind of naive fantasy of like, God, I wish I didn't have to deal with these stupid parents that put me in
well,
stupid boarding school.
right,
And
and she seemed very childish or immature or
yeah,
something, even for a freshman. Too, though, I mean, maybe there was other phone calls where he had been promising other things to her that she really, who knows what he promised her, and
yeah,
then told her, well, I'll give you all those things, because I mean, it seemed like the most thing she was most keen on was the fact that she would get to stay there, which means she didn't want to go home. So
right.
something was going on there, but maybe he'd been promising her all kinds of stuff all along, and then ultimately said, "Well, what you'll have to give me is I'm going to take your parents, and then you have to kill the cunts." So, no, but yeah, I agree. Like, I don't, I wouldn't change the movie at all. I love the movie, but you are kind of left. This is one of those movies where you got to kind of put the story together for yourself, and
Hmm.
I think whatever you come up with is probably just as right as what I think. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, now I'm understanding Rodney's comment where he said, I thought the time jump didn't really work in the sense of believably passing off one actor as the older version of another. That, yeah, that computes because I really stuck on how is Emma Roberts supposed to be an older version of Kiernan Shipka? They
Well,
look
like
like
I
too similar in age to me, and they don't look enough alike for me to be like, oh yeah, that's her. Except that they're both blonde. I don't know.
I don't like I said. I think the first time I watched, I didn't get that either. It took me a while to figure out what the heck. Um,
Yeah. And even though this was my second watch, it was kind of like a first time watch just because it's been since 2015, and we all know how bad Jessica's brain is. So,
Well, when you watch horror movies for a living like we do, they can all run together very easily.
so true. So, Tammy, what are you gonna rate the Blackcoat's daughter?
I think I would give it a 9. I mean, I haven't seen it a million times, but I see it being in my rotation for like the rest of my life. I've watched it at least, I guess I think this is maybe my 5th or 6th viewing of it. So I do like it and I do revisit it. This viewing, even though I was trying to watch it critically and everything, was still definitely just as enjoyable. So I don't know. I just think it's really masterful. I think this is more of the masterful storytelling. I love movies that are told intertwined, kind of like this. Fall of the House of Usher is kind of like that, where you're going back and forth in time and you have to be patient for the story to all come together for you at the end. And that can be a little nerve-wracking when you're going through it, but then it's very satisfying, I think, when you figure it all out and it all comes together in the end. And I think this does this really, really well. I can see what people are saying that Emma Roberts is not a good fit for an older Kiernan Shipka, but like we were talking about before, if you had just used her, it would have been too easy to figure out. And I think that's not what he was going for. So, I mean, I don't know. I didn't ask him, but it's the only reason I could think that he would do that. So, I think it's definitely a 9. I think it's masterful. How about you?
I'm giving it an 8.5, which is still a pretty good rating. Yeah. And I totally agree with everything you say. And, even though I wasn't smart enough to pull it all together, it was still very satisfying, especially for a slow burn. And I thought the acting on everyone's part was perfect. So that really helps when you're watching a movie like this, keep you invested and entertained. I was just like totally sucked in by everybody's acting. So
100%. Yeah. And plus it's that setting that I love. It's a girls' school. Love it. It's a Satan movie. Love it. I
always like lonely girl stories,
Agreed.
Because it's kind of relatable, but
I know, 100%.
I love my poor lonely girls. Yeah. I'm someone who kind of thrives in my loneliness. I never understand like what's wrong with being alone or lone. I guess alone and lonely are different. I'm okay with being alone, and whenever I see these stories about lonely girls, I just feel so bad for them and I just want to hug them and make them feel less lonely,
I think though it's not until you grow up that you realize there is a difference between lonely and being alone. Like I'm alone a lot, but I'm never lonely, and there's a big difference. Like if you had told me 20 years ago that, I would get divorced again and choose to be on my own after that, I would have told you were insane. I just wasn't to that point yet. Now I don't know how I could ever go back, but there's definitely, but to a freshman in high school,
like at a boarding school,
it's probably about the worst. Oh yeah, she's going to be looking for somebody or something to fill that, because she's not looking to the other girls for friendship. And obviously she just doesn't think her parents are all that great, because she sells them out pretty quickly. So I think that, it's just, that's why he picked her. Good pick.
Mm-hmm. I like the tagline, or at least the line that's on the poster. It says, "Abandoned as a child, raised by the dark."
Well, so see there, they think that, how do we know she's abandoned as a child? But I mean, somebody else thinks that too.
Are there kid boarding schools? Has she been in boarding schools all her life?
It's more like an orphanage. Like, I mean, somebody's paying her bill and the headmaster thinks her parents are coming, so they must exist. But I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe just emotionally unavailable.
Yeah, it could be.
And Satan's there for her.
Abandoned at boarding school, that would make sense. Like, she's been going, like, she didn't just go her freshman year. Like, maybe she's, I think you can go to boarding school as soon as you can go to school if your parents have enough money, probably.
Damn, probably. Also, I guess when you're 15, you're still a child.
True. I mean, my son's 15, and I mean, he'd like to tell you he's grown up, but no, not
Yeah.
quite. Or I
Well, my
think of
daughter's
myself.
18 and she admits that she's still a
Oh, well,
child. So at least she knows.
yeah. But you're never more grown up in your own mind than when you're 15. It's like
Seriously.
all the grown-ups are wrong and you're right, and yeah, I
Yeah.
remember it well.
Oh, I remember it too.
Yeah.
Well, that was our review. The last thing that we've got to attend to, unless Tammy's gonna surprise me with a 70s corner. Do you have a 70s corner this week?
I wasn't, but I was actually, it's funny that you say that because I was thinking to myself, I really need to do one. So I have one or two in mind. I might do it next time. So
Okay, fun.
give you something to look forward to.
Yay. Well, then the last thing on our agenda is our monstrous mention for this week. I almost said that correctly. Um,
You're getting there.
I'm getting there. And this week I chose Lori Lipton, who is an artist, and she draws mostly in the figurative realm. So, people. And there is horror in a lot of her pieces that is inspired by real life fears and horror, such as politics. And you may have seen some of her drawings floating around during COVID, which is when I first discovered her. There was one in particular, this really creepy drawing of Trump, who's like half mechanical, that was circulating during COVID. I think that one was called Post Truth, maybe part of her Post Truth series. But her drawings are really amazing. And it's this really great combination of realism and surrealism. And she works in black and white mostly, maybe completely. And there are such great values and contrast in her work, which is something that I personally appreciate in art. So I just think that the detail is so great. And I'm going to post all of her information in the show notes, including her website where you guys can check out all of her pieces. So that is my monstrous mention for this week,
Oh,
Lori
awesome.
Lipton.
I love an artist.
Yes, I know. We're going to have plenty of podcast shout outs on here, of course, because we're podcasters and we have a lot of podcasting friends. But I do want to also, highlight some really great artists and hopefully authors and filmmakers and all kinds of people who create within our realm of horror. So this is my first artist shout out.
Well, I think a lot of the horror community is pretty right-brained and pretty creative, and I think a lot of those topics don't get touched on a lot of other podcasts, but I think anything like that, I think a lot of our listeners would be interested in. And plus, it's always nice to shout out, shout out another female creator. So yay for
Yes,
that. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and there aren't as many female um artists like that deal with horror as there are
Yeah.
men, of course. So just always want to put these creators out there for people to check out. We want to have these people seen. We want to encourage it. We want women to embrace their love of horror and be celebrated for it. So that's why I picked Lori Lipton for this week.
You know, what would you think? Because I don't presume to know everything. What I think we would be open to suggestions, don't you think? If people can think of maybe
Oh, a
somebody
thousand
that,
percent.
yeah, like,
Yes.
because first of all, I'm a bad one for like, I'll see something I really like and never make myself aware of who created it or whatever. Plus, like, in this day of like social media, I can flip through 20 things a day I think are amazing and they just don't, like,
Yeah.
but I think we'd be very open if anybody out there wants to suggest somebody that you think deserves a shout out. I think we're definitely open to that. Just message us, let us know.
Yes, please. I haven't actually started a list yet, but I'm going to very soon. I've just been kind of busy, but I want to have like a running list, that I add artists and creators to so that we can shout because we're going to have a shit ton of episodes eventually. You know what I mean? And while I do love art and creating and creations, like my list is only going to be so long on my own.
Right,
So
right, right.
I would
Yeah.
definitely appreciate people's input.
Oh, for sure.
All right.
Okay. Well, anything else?
I think that's going to do it. So just realized I didn't put our outro in our outline. So I have it pulled up though. So I've got this.
All right, thank you. Because I don't.
So that's going to do it for this episode of Horror Through Her Eyes. Next week, we'll be reviewing, I guess, Jessica's pick of The Fall of the House of Usher, the new series by Mike Flanagan on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it and then listen to our spoiler-filled review next week. That's currently streaming on Netflix, and you know how that works. It's exclusive. And please subscribe and rate and review our podcast anywhere where podcasts are found. Seriously, if you don't see our podcast on whatever app you like to use, just let me know. We had one listener do that already, and I was able to find that app and add our podcast to that service as well. So I'm pretty sure I can add it wherever. But if I don't know it exists, I can't. So it should be in all the big normal places that you think of. And if you use a small mom and pop app, just let me know so I can see if I can get it on there for you. Join our Horror Through Her Eyes Facebook group page. You can email us at horrorthroughhereyes@yahoo.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Threads at Horror Through Her Eyes Pod with an underscore between each word. You can follow us on TikTok at Horror Through Her Eyes Pod. And you can follow us on Letterboxd at Horror Her Eyes. And I haven't added anything to it yet, but I will soon. I promise. I'm going to be working on it. And as we bid you farewell, we hope you enjoyed your time with us on Horror Through Her Eyes. It's been a blast diving into the depths of dread with you. Until next time, remember to
live deliciously.
Whoop whoop. That was fun. Is your mouth tired?
I did so much talking. Oh my God.
I know. I felt bad. Is that how we did it last time? I didn't talk the whole time, did I?
I think I was like heavily relying on notes, but I wanted to this is such an intricate movie. I didn't want to miss anything or get off on I was trying just to pace myself and not just start going off on everything that I thought. So I'm just going to use the notes because I'm afraid people might not like that. I maybe shouldn't do that or try not to do that so much next time. I was just this is such a hard one to not jump around. I was kind of trying to follow the story and I didn't want to give too much away, but
yeah,
I don't think in the future I would read the notes quite so much next time.
Yeah. I did think, with it being kind of a deep movie, I thought that we would kind of go off more. But it's kind of funny because even though it's really deep, it's more of in an emotional way. You know what I mean? So it's we touched on the things and luckily you understood what was actually happening. And it's we did talk about things as they came up, but at the same time, it didn't seem like there was a lot of actual conversation.
I know. And I didn't
have, but I thought that there would be.
I kind of realized halfway through and I'm well, I've already started down this road. I'm just going to finish it. But I think next time I do it, I'm going to try to write just a really rough outline and then try to use my conversation to fill it in instead of sound like I'm reading. So sorry about that, but.
No, I thought it was fine. Although I did notice I had a lot of spelling errors, so I'm sorry. Because I just type while I'm watching the movie. You know what I mean? And apparently I didn't do spell check afterwards.
No, it's fine. I knew what you were saying most of the 99.9%.
Yeah, you figured it out. But I would see the line where you're no.
Oh, it's fine. Oh, we got through it.
It does kind of seem too, because it does time jumps and stuff, that it does kind of help to be oh yeah, okay, in the scene we're here and then the next scene we're back at the school.
And maybe I didn't need to go through every single scene, but I would have forgot a lot of that stuff had I tried to go off the cuff.
Yeah.
Because my notes were just as detailed as yours. And yours were so good. Like mine, I didn't want to be like trying to read and yours were like in sentence form. I would,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, like mine's just a bunch of stuff like scrawled down. I'm like, man, that's not going to read very well.
Yeah.
So,
I know. And a lot of the movie, too, is so just visual, just like taking in the, like, the silence and her just like looking out off into the distance at nothing. You know what I mean? So a lot of the notes are just like, she's standing there looking
yeah.
out the window. She
Well,
picks up the brush. She puts it back down. Like,
that's exactly true.
yeah, it's so funny.
Oh.